Jerry Jones, speaking of constantly available to the media, and I guess it's hard for the Cowboys to be upset about Micah Parsons having his own podcast when twice per week Jones goes on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas-Fort Worth and says whatever he wants to say. The topic yesterday, or at least one of them, related to his faith in quarterback Dak Prescott. Here's what Jones had to say Tuesday on 105.3 The Fan.
We have, in my mind, make no mistake about it, we have a quarterback that can get us there. And so I feel very strongly there. Do we have players in place? Do we have it at quarterback? Let me be very affirmative. I completely believe that we have the quarterback that can take us where we want to go. Dak Prescott is a quarterback that can get us to the Super Bowl, and that's the way that's going to be.
I love hearing Jerry on 105.3 The Fan. Fridays later in the day. Tuesday, it's right out of bed Jerry. After whatever he was drinking or smoking the night before, the voice is deep and gravelly. At times I've wondered whether he is laying in bed talking on the phone. You never really know. But that was deep voice Jerry early Tuesday morning on 105.3 The Fan. And there's been this loyalty to Dak.
Yeah.
And it is a complicated relationship because I think they very much wanted him to extend his contract this past offseason, reduce what he's making, reduce his cap number. Next year, they're looking at nearly $60 million as the cap charge in what will be the final year of his current contract. He's got them over a barrel again, but they still are loyal to him. I think there's so much ego from Jones caught up in the fact that they discovered Dak in the year that they wanted to get Paxton Lynch, and they should be very happy they dodged that bullet in 2016. But they found him. They developed him. He's taken them to a certain level. He believes, Jones does, that Dak can take the team even farther. But where's the evidence of it? At some point, just like with Kirk Cousins, you are who you are. You've achieved what you're going to achieve. There's a ceiling that you have not been able to bust through. Cousins hasn't done it since entering the league in 2012. Prescott hasn't done it since entering the league only 4 years later. And I understand that there's a certain amount of carnival barker to what Jerry Jones says and does. And I think part of his game is to keep people believing in the Cowboys even when maybe they shouldn't. Why do you think he has this belief in Dak that the results so far don't seem to merit?
If you go back, Mike, from Troy Aikman to finding Tony Romo, the Cowboys had 8 starters between those two quarterbacks. And you're right, they lucked into Dak Prescott. But they had guys like Quincy Carter, Chad Hutchinson. They traded with Houston for Drew Henson. They had Vinny Testaverde, Drew Bledsoe, Ryan Leaf, all those types of quarterbacks, even some guys like Clint Sterner. And I think he remembers that and said it was so hard for us to find Tony Romo. And now we have a guy we also found, so we're not going to let him go because we didn't have much luck between Aikman and Romo at finding a quarterback. And boy, those were pretty lean years. At least we're getting to the playoffs. At least we have a chance, we feel like. But yeah, it's Dak Prescott's 8th season. He has 2 Pro Bowls. The last one was in 2018. That means the last 5 years, Mike, and some of those were injury-plagued years, I get it. But that means he wasn't one of the top 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in his own conference, because we know usually more than 3 quarterbacks go to the Pro Bowl. He's 2-4 in the postseason. That's the exact same record that Tony Romo had in the postseason. At some point, you have to make a decision about that position. The Rams made it with Jared Goff. He was good enough to get us to a Super Bowl. We don't think we can win a Super Bowl with him. We're going to go trade him to the Lions. We're going to get Matthew Stafford, who we feel like can win us a Super Bowl. They did that. We've seen other teams do that. We've seen the 49ers do that. Again, they lucked into Brock Purdy, but figured out they had him. It's time to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. So, we've seen it with other teams, and they just seem like they're married to Dak Prescott. And because of that, I think it's Jerry thinking back to those lean years when they didn't have a quarterback and they were searching for that guy and feeling like it took him so long to find that guy. Is Trey Lance going to be that guy to replace Dak Prescott? No one knows that right now. They haven't seen enough of him. He didn't spend the preseason and the offseason with them. He doesn't know the offense. He's not taking any reps, obviously, in practice. That doesn't happen for the third-string quarterback. So to say they're kind of stuck with Dak Prescott, I think they are right now, especially with that cap hit that he has next year. The question is, do they extend him? At what point do they try to extend him? Do they let this thing play out and just take the cap hit next year and see what happens after next year? I don't know, Mike. They're projected right now to be $9 million over the salary cap next year.
And they're going to have Micah Parsons showing up as soon as the regular season ends saying, I want my second contract now and I want to be the highest paid player on the defensive side of the ball in NFL history, and he'll deserve it when he does. That's the problem they're facing next year. If you've got nearly $60 million tied up under the cap in one player's name, it becomes very difficult to put a team on the field around him. I've got a theory, and Chris and I talked about this the other day. I don't know when hypothesis becomes theory. But this goes back to the comment about some of the pro wrestling bluster making its way into football. And there's a lot of carnival barkering that goes on to get fans engaged, to get them to buy tickets, to get them to watch games. And I don't know that I believe this. I just want to throw out this possibility. Jerry Jones has managed to create the perception that he is obsessed with winning at least one more Super Bowl before he dies. It's no secret. He's made it clear. And there's a thought that he very much would like to win one with a team that he can say, and everyone else will say, he built. Not Jimmy Johnson. He built this team. His team. I did it. I won a Super Bowl with the team I built. What if he doesn't really care about winning another Super Bowl? What if it's all part of the effort to keep the Cowboys as America's team, and kind of like what I accuse the Vikings of from time to time, good enough is good enough. We don't have to make it to the Super Bowl. We don't have to win the Super Bowl. We just want to be competitive. You mentioned the lean years. We don't want lean years, because if you have enough lean years, eventually people aren't going to tune in and watch you no matter what star you have on the side of your helmet. We just want to be in the conversation. And we're not willing to risk dropping off to do the all-in move that the Rams did to win a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Because they could do it. He could take a page from his buddy Stan Kroenke's playbook, and they could push all the chips into the middle of the table, and they could mortgage the future, and they could put themselves in a position where even if they win the Super Bowl, they got lean years after that where nobody knows what the hell they are, which is what the Rams are now. But if he's so obsessed with, as he called it at that 2012 training camp press conference, glory hole, he was here when it was glory hole days, and I was here when it wasn't. And having said that, I want me some glory hole. And everybody laughed, and he didn't know why they were laughing. And then Rich Dalrymple tried to save him, and he threw it back. That's news to me. It's 11 years later, and he's still searching for glory hole, Charean. I have to at least entertain the possibility that it's all bullcrap, that he just wants to make more money from his team, and he really doesn't care if he wins a Super Bowl.
I think he cares very deeply. I think he wants to win a Super Bowl because of the reason that you said. I built this team. This is my team. This isn't Jimmy Johnson's team. This is my team. Even the 1995 championship that Barry Switzer won, people look at that team and say, well, Jimmy Johnson built that team. That was Jimmy Johnson's team. I think he very much wants that. But to your point, have the Cowboys gone out and signed big-name free agents? They have not. They haven't done that since Brandon Carr, which was ages ago. They changed their philosophy. We're going to draft. We're going to extend our own players. They've done a very good job at drafting. But you're right. If he truly wanted to win a Super Bowl, they could do that. They could go out and get 2 or 3 high-priced players who are the best at their positions, and they haven't done that. So, yes, there is a sliver of truth to that, in that they haven't done everything it takes to go win a Super Bowl like now. And they haven't mortgaged that future to win a Super Bowl now. Maybe at some point, I don't know, probably not, but he decides, I really want this one more. So people say this was Jerry Jones's team, a final legacy. But he's in the Hall of Fame, Mike. He doesn't need that. I mean, you don't go in the Hall of Fame twice. He's there already. So, yeah, maybe he's comfortable with building this team that's a contender every year. And if they win it, great. And if they don't win it, well, we're going to be a contender again next year.
And I guess my point is this. If he truly is obsessed with getting one more Super Bowl, and he's spent now 28 years just trying to get back to the game that gives you a chance to get to the Super Bowl, that is a level of torment that he doesn't deserve, that he's inflicting on himself. The guy's got a gigantic yacht. He's worth billions. His team is worth billions. He turns 81 on Friday, something I didn't know until I just checked his birth date.
Yep.
October 13, Friday, Jerry turns 81. It is one hell of a way to spend your golden years constantly tormented by this thing that you can't achieve and that you aren't making the moves to achieve, because you're doubling down, you're feeding your own ego with this idea that Dak Prescott is somehow a Super Bowl winning quarterback, when Dak Prescott hasn't led the Cowboys to enough victories to even get to the NFC Championship. And I say that as a card-carrying member of the Dak Prescott fan club, but there's a point where we have to be realistic. He entered the league a year before Patrick Mahomes. And look at what Patrick Mahomes has done, and look at what Dak Prescott has done. Now, if you put Dak Prescott with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes with the Cowboys, how different is it? I don't know. We don't get the benefit of that fascinating alternate reality. But the Bill Parcells line, you are what your record says you are. You've accomplished what your accomplishments say. Dak Prescott hasn't gotten to the NFC Championship. The Cowboys haven't gotten to the NFC Championship since 1995. I told Sims a year or two ago, like, if you had told me that after the Cowboys beat the Steelers in Super Bowl 30, when you consider all the years, as we were growing up, the Cowboys constantly on the doorstep of the Super Bowl or in it, they won't even be back to the game to get to the Super Bowl for nearly 30 years, I never would have believed it. I never, ever would have believed it. And so, again, if he believes it, that he's trying to get this fourth Super Bowl, it's a level of angst and frustration that he doesn't deserve. He's achieved too much in his life to spend his final years constantly racked with this desire to get something he can't get. So that's why I think it might be a little fugazi, that it might be about the broader point of, you know what, only one team wins a Super Bowl every year, but we all win. And I'm winning more than everybody else financially because I got America's team and they don't.
Well, he is doing that. He's making a ton of money with this team. There's no question about that, Mike. And at some level, he does want to win it, and he wants to win it very badly. But you're right. They haven't done everything they could do to go win a Super Bowl if they truly wanted to put all the chips in the middle and go do it. And to your point about Kansas City, I was just going through my brain. I think the Cowboys have a more talented roster than the Chiefs have. When you start looking at all the big name players they have, Micah Parsons, I would argue, is one of the top 2, 3 defensive players in football, and their offensive line's probably better. Their receiving corps, I think, is better. You got Trevon Diggs. I realize he's out for the year right now, but top corner Stephon Gilmore. I just think top to bottom, that Cowboys team is better than that Chiefs team, but the difference, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback in the world, and he can take it like Tom Brady did. I don't think Tom Brady had really great teams around him. He made the players on those teams better when you look at it. Look at the Hall of Famers he played with. He didn't play with a ton of Hall of Famers. He made those guys better, and that's what Patrick Mahomes does. He makes his teammates better.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.